Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a subject to you that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and that is the ego and what it means. I believe Sigmund Freud, the famed psychiatrist, coined the term originally, the ego, the id, and the superego, and I am no professor of psychology. I'm going to qualify that, but I do understand the ideas, and I've read about it. I took psychology in school, and I do understand also that there is a wide misconception about these things. And this video is only using the ego as an example for a bigger subject, I think. And that is how people tend to fly to extremes. How people are super reactive, especially when it comes to common rhetoric and myths and ideas that get a lot of attention in the media, for example. So we've heard of egomania, egomaniacs, people who are obsessed with themselves, people who are noisy and pompous and arrogant. These are objectionable traits, objectively objectionable, if you will. And the idea that these things come from the ego has been circulating for decades, at least. And it's giving the ego a bad name. I think most people fail to understand even what the ego is as far as it was originally described, and that is the part of the mind that is the identity, the self, if you agree with the analysis of the human mind as submitted by Freud. But anyway, the ego is the basis for things like self-confidence, also self-belief, self-respect, self-esteem, anything that depends on an identity and some kind of boundary, a perimeter around the individual. So to say that the ego is bad, and a lot of people are saying this, is a failure to understand really what it is and what it means to remove it. So ego death is another idea, and it's described in a positive way by pretty much everybody I've heard use that term, ego death, as in such that can happen with the use of certain psychedelics after a while. It's just one example. Ego death is described by most people who use those words as being a level up, if you will, a graduation, where you're no longer possessed by this obnoxious trait. But I would contend that, like I said, people fail to understand the role of the ego and how it's a necessary component of a healthy mind. And it's possible to not be arrogant and obnoxious while having a healthy ego, a healthy, nourished sense of identity. It's not even optional, really. You're missing something important without it. And I'm going to branch off into a different idea, but it's connected here. And that is flying to extremes, as mentioned, with emphasis on American culture as an example. And this is not meant to be disrespectful, but hopefully a way to look at a phenomenon which is very difficult for me to describe, and I'm going to do my best. So consider, as an American, I am an American, so I can speak for Americans, or as an American, I should say. I understand the metric system, first of all. Hopefully everybody knows about the metric system. Here in America, we don't typically use it. We have both, unfortunately. We go back and forth, and it's a little bit complicated because now we've got two systems that are they're fighting each other in the tool department, so to speak. But we use, for hundreds of years, we've used inches and feet and uncommon units of measure as far as the rest of the world goes. But here's the point. The point is, as an ordinary American, these units don't seem strange. The idea that we should do things like daylight savings. I know that a lot of people are kind of already on board with thinking that it's a crazy system, and it is, but many people still just take it as the way. It's normal, right? It's, inches, feet, and daylight savings. It's not crazy. It makes perfect sense. Okay, until you look at it objectively. This is the point. Until you grew up somewhere else, if you can imagine being a European or anybody else, nobody else uses inches and feet anymore in the world except for Americans. So it is very strange. It is nonsensical. It's not based on anything else. It's just we came up with this unit and we stick by it. So the metric system is largely based on other things, such as the boiling point of water. 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of water. There are meaningful points that it's based upon: centimeters, meters, kilometers, all that stuff. But feet and inches, not so much. Miles, whatever. Daylight savings. But the point again is that from the perspective of the ordinary American, we're perfectly normal. We're not doing anything crazy. And I think it's interesting if you think about it. I'm going to say that again. From the perspective of the average American, inches, feet, miles, daylight savings, perfectly normal. To the entire rest of the planet, it looks batshit crazy. So whether it is or isn't, again, is not the point. It's that it's easy to assume that a behavior is normal and proper if it's what you were taught. That's the point. It's easy to assume that no matter how crazy something is, if you have confirmed it, that is to say you have confirmation bias, suddenly it becomes normal to you and you cannot see it another way. It becomes a very difficult thing to grow outside of, to think outside the box like you've heard, or to just put yourself into perspective of somebody else. Maybe you have hostility towards people who use the metric system. I've met these people. I don't understand it. Okay, well, you don't. Maybe they don't use feet, but do you have to hate them for not using feet and inches? So that's just a joke, but it's not normal, and it's very much like statistically not normal. A tiny fraction of a percentage of people use inches and feet in the world, and here most Americans are believing that their way is superior and proper. And my final question is, how many other issues follow suit? How many other ideas, batshit crazy ideas, are we just completely confirmed about? We have adopted them, our grandparents adopted them, and we've been running with this stuff for years when it makes no sense whatsoever. How many things? Surely something, right? Probably a lot of stuff. And when you start thinking about it like that, it's really a wake-up call. How are other people doing things? There's a whole world going on out there, and some of their ways are better than American ways. That's just logic. And if you can't see that much, wow. Okay, I don't know what to tell you at that point. Anyhow, it's hard to change. I accept and I acknowledge that changing a system is very difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. But the question shouldn't be, how difficult it is, but what is the reason for what you're doing? Is it really helpful? Does it support your health and happiness, or your community's health and happiness? Those are the questions, the only questions, as far as I'm concerned. So have a great day. If you have questions or comments, reach out to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.